There are 7 continents on our planet. A continent is a large section of land that is separated from other areas of land. Most of the time, they are separated by water. The 7 continents are North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. The country we are studying today is Tahiti, and it is part of the Australian continent. Tahiti is an island in the South Pacific Ocean, and it's actually not a country, nor is it technically on the Australian continent. It is, however, its own unique place and is generally considered to be part of the continent that Australia is on. Tahiti is the largest island in what is called French Polynesia. If you look on a map of the world, it's really nothing more than one of the many tiny little dots that you see in the Pacific Ocean. However, you would be quite amazed at how big and beautiful this island is if you ever had the chance to go there. Tahiti's native people are Polynesian. Polynesian is a general term for native people that are from the South Pacific area. It is thought that Polynesian people first came to the island of Tahiti about 800 years before Christ was born. Tahitians were very isolated for more than 1,000 years until they were discovered by European adventurers in the 1700s. The travelers were instantly amazed at how beautiful the island was, how kind the people were, and how relaxed they were. However, their peaceful way of life was quickly destroyed with the introduction of alcohol, guns, prostitution, and disease. Christian missionaries that soon came to the island tried to turn people away from these things, but their culture was forever changed. The Christian missionaries were also very instrumental in getting the Tahitian language into a written language. Before this time, the Tahitian language was only spoken, it wasn't written. The Tahitians kept their history by telling stories with music and dance. So you might imagine how important music and dance is to the Polynesian people. In the year 1880, Tahiti became an official colony of France. This meant that the people should have the same rights as a person in France. However, the Tahitians were not granted this same right until 1946. Like many other Polynesian cultures, the Tahitian culture was seen as uncivilized and even devilish to the European travelers. They often felt that it was devilish because, well, their dress didn't seem very modest by European standards. Their music and their dance with the drums and the beat just seemed so far out of the comfort zone of what the Europeans were used to. They couldn't understand it, and so they thought that they should help them become more civilized by converting them to the European way of life. These sentiments led to the near destruction of their language, history, and culture. During the 1960s and 70s, Tahitians were even forbidden to speak their native language and forced to speak only French. Any child caught speaking Tahitian was punished and kicked out of school. Today, this has changed, and efforts are made to preserve the Tahitian language and culture. Kids are taught both French and Tahitian in school, and cultural centers serve as both preservation and tourism. French Polynesia, including the island of Tahiti, has about 170,000 people living there today, and about 70% of them are native Tahitians. The official language of Tahiti is French. However, most of the older generation only speaks Tahitian. Most of the younger generation only speaks French. For this reason, it is common to find businesses and churches that provide services in both languages. The ancient Tahitians had chiefs that counseled with other leaders and the people to make decisions. Later, they had kings and queens. But today, they are a self-governing part of France that has its own president. The capital of Tahiti is Papeete and is home to most of the people who live in Tahiti. Tahitian food is similar to other Polynesian islands. Raw fish, crab, meat, rice, taro, coconut are some of the basics of their diet. Poisson cru, or iaota, is a national dish of Tahiti and contains raw fish, vegetables, and coconut milk. When travelers first arrived on the island, they found that the people really didn't wear much at all. Tahiti is warm enough that not much is needed, and the clothing that they did wear was made of leaves and tall grasses. Some of the clothing that was worn for ceremonies and celebrations were really quite elaborate. Today, much of the same traditional clothing can be seen in the cultural centers or as tourist attractions. Traditional dance is also performed at these locations. Most of the people of Tahiti are pretty religious, and you can find that most of the people in Tahiti belong to some Christian denomination. Rugby and soccer are very popular sports among Tahitians. But one very popular game that you will probably see being played on almost every street corner is a game called bocce. Bocce comes from Europe and involves trying to get your ball closest to a smaller ball in a way that's somewhat similar to horseshoes. Tahiti stays very warm without getting too hot. It rains a lot, and the seasons involve basically a wet season and a dry season. However, the dry season is actually still pretty wet compared to some areas of the world. Most of the people live only in the outer rim of the island. The inner part of the island is made up of steep mountainsides that would not be very easy to build a house on. One of the really unique things found in Tahiti are black sand beaches. The black volcanic rock that makes up most of the island is turned into sand when it's next to the ocean, and so the sand is black. A neat side effect to the black sand is that the clams in the ocean produce pearls that are black instead of white. Tahiti is famous for its black pearls. If you ever go to Tahiti and have the chance to venture away from the tourist resort, you will find a people that are relaxed and kind, just like the people that the very first travelers found.